This summer, we're slowing down and showing up in new ways. We're up north, Bryson's at camp. The air is a little lighter here. But behind the scenes, I'm always working on something. Hi, and welcome back to The Ann Life. If you're new here, I'm Alexis, mom of 3, real estate entrepreneur, wellness seeker, and lover of the coastal slow life. I don't know, ChatGPT wrote that. I thought it sounded good, so I thought I would read it. If you are new here, I have started to share my journeys as traveling with kids, solo, sometimes with my husband. So family travel, whole foods, and natural living. But I sprinkle in some real estate and some real estate investing at the same time. This is a little bit of a life update on what we're working on and what's going on. I tend to hibernate when things are very stressful, and so I don't post much and I don't put myself out there. And so this is me putting it out there before I'm ready. August of 2023, our house flooded and we got 6 inches of water. And a month prior to that, I had my 3rd child. And so my real estate business, although it kept going, my marketing halted, and I stopped marketing. I stopped making phone calls. I stopped reaching out. I mean, obviously people still called me because I had built that book of business, but if you are a client or a friend of mine, you know that I just kind of stopped posting. But that was, I think, the point hit like kind of a bit of a tailspin. And so I say that to then go through, like, this has been about a year and a half, almost 2 years, that I spiraled into thinking I should get out of the business again and I should do other ventures, which is always my go-to whenever things aren't going the way that I think they should. Almost a year later, a little over a year later, our house flooded. We got 30 inches of water in our house from Helene, and then 2 weeks later, our house flooded again with Milton, and we got another 18 inches. So, needless to say, my family of 5 have been bouncing around for almost the last year, and our house was never actually fully put back together after Milton. We actually had just gotten the drywall like retextured, and we were about to paint from the previous one. And the saddest story of all of this, it's actually not the saddest, but it is like the most heartbreaking for me in like a consumer way. I decided after Idalia, which is when we got 6 inches, and I apologize, but I refer to the storms as to how much damage or how much water we got from them. So I don't know if that helps you, but to me, it has like the intensity factor. So after we got the 6 inches, our IKEA bed that was, I don't know, maybe $300 like 13 years ago, it was wood. It probably would have been fine, but we had already kind of like screwed it together to try to make it work, and it was time for an upgrade. So I put my big girl pants on and I went and custom ordered a bed from Crate & Barrel, thinking I've arrived. And it wasn't 2020, but there was still, because it was a custom order. And when I say custom, I picked a certain fabric that I wanted for the space. And it was supposed to arrive in October. We ordered it, I don't know, like it was probably like March or something. So it was going to be like 6 months. It was supposed to be there in October, which was totally fine. We were sleeping with a mattress on the floor in the unfinished room, but at least we had a room. And we did have to replace that flooring to a tile flooring that matched the rest of the house. So it was fine. It was unfinished, but fine and very livable. So when Helene was coming and they called for 7 to 8 foot storm surge, the Crate & Barrel bed had arrived like 48 hours before, like that week it had like come in, which was like middle of September or like end of September. And so we had put it up on a higher part of the house, hoping, like not thinking that the water would be 3 feet in our house. And It was still in boxes. I never even opened it to look inside. I just put it inside the house. And so it got soaking wet. And where we live, like us and our neighbors, not only did we get storm surge, we also got sewage backup. So I had considered keeping it. And of course, like I bought like the tuft bed, the upholstered bed, because that's what's in right now. And I wanted something softer. That is what happened. So that was like the biggest heartbreak. Anyways, I'm totally off tangent. So all of this to say that in the last 2 years, there's been a lot of dodging and diving and dip, dive. Really, like there's a clip here because I don't know what it is. But I finally feel like things are starting to like level off. And part of this channel and part of like me sharing this is because in my head, or in like the way I grew up, it was like, you don't make excuses, right? Like you just, something happens to you, you pick yourself up and you keep going. But, which is true, I still believe that. But there also needs to be a reflection and a bit of grace, like the fact that we have gone through quite a bit. And so when I tell people about these things, I try not to come at it from an angle of like victimism or like I'm a victim. I try to come at it from like a place of like just sharing like the level that I'm at right now. Like you may or may not be getting the all of me that I want to be giving you because my head is somewhere else. I've really dialed into what needs to happen, what my ideal life is, which is obviously something that I'm very interested in pursuing. And it's ironic because I've completely circled back to where I began. And I think that's kind of the point. I think you can spiral. I think you can find new things that you're interested in. But a lot of times it takes you right back to where you were, but just with like a little bit more courage and a little bit more perspective. And I think we see it across all, people take sabbaticals for a reason. I mean, burnout is real. And almost every person that I follow has hit a stage of burnout and is talking about how it's okay. And I think the reason why it's okay is we all need a reset. We all need to figure out like why we're doing what we're doing and like if we want to do what we're doing. And I think it's totally fine to reflect on that. And so life has shaken up for me, and I almost envision like a snow globe, right? Like it just like shakes it up and like things are falling and I don't know like what's up or down. But then when everything settles, I'm like, oh yeah, it's right here. What I've wanted this whole time and what I've been working for, it's all here. And so yeah, so glad you're here. My husband and I own Airbnbs. It is my love language. It is what I know. It's what I understand. I'm an A-class investor, but I also like to use my vacation rentals. So I'm a little selfish in that way. We are currently at our first Airbnb in Michigan that we bought 3 years ago. 3 years ago, February, so almost 3.5 years ago. And it has done phenomenal. Like it has exceeded my expectations. And there's been some hiccups and, but it has always consistently paid for itself, which is the ultimate goal for us. Before we bought this one in 2022, we actually purchased another one in the North Carolina mountains in 21. And the thought there was that we go to North Carolina almost every Thanksgiving, so we should buy something. And at the time, it was during like the Airbnb rush, and they were renting for $250 a night. So we calculated that out. We did the math, and gonna pay for itself at least. I wouldn't say anyone promised us that, but like we did our research, and it was gonna pay for itself. Well, turns out it's a supply and demand issue because everyone from Florida went up and bought property in North Carolina, and I'm sure other places as well. Atlanta, there was a lot of people from Atlanta. So our Airbnb that we thought was going to rent for $250 a night actually was only rent maximum like $95 a night. And they were renting for like 2 nights at a time. And long story short, it never grossed more than $9,000 and my carrying costs were $18,000 a year. So we made a decision to do what's called a 1031 exchange. If you are not familiar with the 1031 exchange, there's several caveats to it. but essentially it has to be an investment property, can't be your primary residence, and you have to go up in value from what you're selling. So if you're selling something for $300,000, it has to be more than $300,000, and you can't use it to buy like another secondary, or actually talk to your CPA about secondary, because there's like a caveat there, but you can't use it to buy a primary. You can't use it for something that you're going to live in. I had decided that with everything going on, I didn't need another like property just sucking more money out of our situation. And we were in no way, shape, or form going to be continuing to go up there as much, for a couple reasons. One, we have this place that we come to quite frequently. I would say every other month or so. And then my husband has a hunting property with his brother that he would go to every single weekend if it was up to him. So we were not going to North Carolina. We really weren't utilizing North Carolina at all. And so there was no like loss of use. And so we 1031'd that property. We sold it actually in February of this year. And I was really happy it sold to an end user. I think there could have been quite a few things you could have done to that property to make it a better Airbnb and increase your income. But I just felt like that wasn't necessarily like where we wanted to be. And that specific town, I didn't really feel like the appreciation was there. Well, it was there, but we pulled it out. And I wasn't sure if the appreciation was going to continue. We looked in Florida. I considered doing a renovation property, especially with like all the flood properties. But honestly, like we were still trying to get a handle on our own property. And I just felt like, and when I say we're going to do a project, I mean my husband's going to do the project and I'm going to tell him what I would like to be done. So I really just felt like that was too much to add. Not to mention, when you are considering an Airbnb in Florida, there is a lot of competition, number one. And number two, there are a lot of overhead costs aside from just the mortgage and obviously insurance. But you also have to consider that if there is a hurricane during, your bookings, you may have to cancel those bookings because of hurricane season. So definitely not saying I wouldn't do it. I still would try to find a good deal, because I think certain parts of Florida are always going to be a really great Airbnb destination, i.e. Anna Maria Island, because there's no major hotels out there and the demand for that area is really high. And that and 38, I feel like those areas are really good for Airbnbs. Our house right now, our insurance is up to $7,000 a year. Could I make more money with a Florida rental? Yeah, probably. But I also wanted to have investment properties that were somewhat close to each other. So we found the sweetest little cabin. It is a ski chalet and it was already renovated, and I love renovating things, but renovating things in another state 1,000 to 1,200 miles away is a whole nother thing that I think I'd be willing to take on, but not right now. So we bought this sweet little cabin that was already functioning as an Airbnb, so we could see the numbers, and it had been functioning as an Airbnb for 3 years. So we had 3 years of history, and I could compare them to my property in the same area and see that they were doing roughly about the same. So for me, investing into something like that I already know is going to have income was really important, because with North Carolina, I turned that into an Airbnb. It was a primary residence. So we are currently up here. Bryson, like I said, Bryson's at Sleepaway Camp. We just dropped him off 3 hours ago, and I'm trying to occupy myself. And so we will be working on both properties for the next couple weeks, or actually the next week. We have somebody checking into the other one. But I'm also really getting down to brass tacks with my real estate business and taking this slower time. It's not completely dead, but it's definitely a slower time where people are traveling. Realtors are taking a vacation right now, which they totally deserve and totally should. Still have agents on our team that are still in Florida that aren't going anywhere. This is a really good time that I've realized that is to reset and figure out what the goals are for the business going into the second half of the year. We're going to take these next couple weeks, business plan, and have Zoom calls with our office and with our coaches and with our business advisors, and come up with plans to come into the end of this year very strong. And we have lots of high goals, a little bit about real estate, a little bit about our investing. And as a mom, this is a place that I feel like I can spread out and the kids can be kids and I can get some things done at the same time. So, he's currently at the door crying right now. But if any of this resonates with you, please follow along, subscribe. This is a slow journey. And so if you're here for slow, steady progress in a trajectory that is intentional and that is an and life, right? We're here for it. So currently our and life is that we are in Michigan, but we are heavily working on our Florida business and also enjoying the slow, intentional summer life in northern Michigan. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Just checking to make sure the audio is still working. Oh, that would be so bad because I feel like I kind of said some good stuff there. I don't know. So I hope that gives you a little bit of insight of like why I've been MIA. We have lots of wildlife back here.
No.